guys, hope you're having a great new year. I'm about to do a video that I love to do, and it's my top 10 reads, or my top 10 books that I'd like to read this year, with one caveat. These are books that are sitting on my shelves. So although there are tons of amazing books that are like right on the horizon, actually I think some might have even come out already, this year I want to, and that I really am anticipating. I really need to read, I don't want you to see them yet. Wait, can you see them? You can't see them yet. Okay, good. I really want to get into my TBR. I don't say my TBR because my to-be read list consists of books that I don't own as well, but I really need to get into my shelves. Like, one thing I love is having an extensive library, and that doesn't mean grabbing anything. It means grabbing things that I think not only will interest me, not only that I will hopefully enjoy, but also things that I may want to reread. So I am actually actively creating a library that I can revisit. So I'm really picky about the books that are in it. If I really don't enjoy a book, I tend to go ahead and get rid of it. I haven't done it yet, but I have this huge pile in another room that consists of books that will go to libraries or Goodwill or wherever I can send them, basically. But I only want books on my shelves that I haven't read yet that I really want to read, because I also believe that when you read a book, you will find it at the right time. Like, it will come to you at the right time in your life when you can really like receive it, especially when it comes to spiritual books and nonfiction books, but even fictional books. Whenever it's the right time for you to really read that book and for you to like get something out of it, I think that'll be the right time. And I love like browsing the shelves, kind of like how you do like a bookstore, but they're your own books and you haven't read them yet, and you're just like picking books on a whim. Like, I used to have like an order of books that I would read. Like, I have a short little stack over there, and those are the books that I'm going to read, like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and I would almost never read them. But I like to have a list at the top of the year of books that I definitely want to read, and usually I kind of get to like half of them, I think, because of the other anticipated reads. But it's all about trying to not purchase so many books or acquire so many books. And it's so funny, I say purchase or acquire, like, well, I guess if we rob somebody for books. I want to really go through and read some of these books already because it's been way too long. Beginning with Cersei. I used to be obsessed with Greek mythology, Greek and Roman mythology when I was growing up, like obsessed. I knew everything. And then basically I just stopped caring. I absolutely had zero interest in it. I kind of still almost have zero interest in it. And it's weird because I used to love it so much. But I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe I can like rekindle some of that love, because I just had such a passion for mythology in general. And I think I just kind of was like, whatever. Maybe part of it is because I think I need to explore like Korean mythology and some African mythology. I will be specific. I think I'm going to do that African American and .com thing, the genealogy thing, because I really want to know where on my father's side my family is from. Although, of course, you know, the African peoples who were enslaved came from all over. So you can't really just pinpoint 1 or 2 locations. We're probably all so mixed up. At the same time, I really want to know, because best believe when I find out where we're from, like, I will be having artwork on the walls. I will be having all that stuff going on, because, you know, I believe that that's important. You know, I'm proud of my roots. I just want to know more about them instead of just like Africa, or generally West Africa, Central Africa. Like, I need to know. And according to this, what they say with the African American genealogy, they can like, you'll know like if you're Igbo or Yoruba, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, or any ethnicity, like you will know the specifics, hopefully. It can happen. All that said, maybe that's why I fell out of love with Greek mythology. Maybe I just kind of loved it, but just eventually just felt like it didn't have anything to do with me anyway. So even though a lot of it came from Egyptian mythology and African mythology, so it kind of does, because it was basically passed on. All that said, I do want to read this book. I've heard great things. I haven't read Song of Achilles, but I have that on ebook. So I will start with this one though, because I even went out of my way to get the British UK copy of this book, which is basically the story of Cersei. I can't even remember. What is it, Odysseus, who went over to the island, or someone went over there. We're now seeing the story from her perspective. And I suppose she was like vilified in the traditional stories. I'm looking forward to it, but I really do need to get into some more. I want to learn more about Korean mythology, and definitely figure out where in Africa my family is from so we can get in on that as well. And I can learn a lot more about the mythology of my ancestors. Purity by Jonathan Franzen. Jonathan Franzen is one of my favorite writers. I know that he's a big curmudgeon, but so am I. You guys probably can't really tell because I don't really get all curmudgeon-y. I think I do sometimes. A little of my curmudgeon slips out. But I'm not like quite Joe Budden's level curmudgeon, but I'm curmudgeon-y. I am curmudgeon-y. I am not a generous reader. I'm a pretty bitchy reader. I can be nitpicky about little things. I'm really picky. Okay, I'm really picky. And I tend to not just like unload on you guys with all the books because I feel like I don't want to talk about a bunch of books that I don't like, especially because I don't finish them all. And I don't feel like it's fair to really review books that you haven't finished. All that said, he's a curmudgeon, I'm a curmudgeon, I think we would get along. I really like his writing. This story is about a girl who is looking for her father, or was it her father? Yeah, looking for her father. It's been a long time since I read the synopsis and a long time since I picked it up, which I picked up the first week. She's looking for her father. She's trying to figure out where he is. She has this kind of weird relationship with this strained relationship with her mother. And apparently there's some magical realism in here, which would be very, very different for Jonathan Franzen. I can't wait to get into this. I'm definitely going to get to this year for sure because I really, really, really have been waiting to read this book. And I'm tired of, you know when you set aside books but you feel like it's a book that you've been looking forward to reading for so long and you think you might love it, but you don't get to it because you almost feel like you want to save it for what, I don't know, or reading something. There are so many books that come out every year, and as much of a curmudgeon as I am, yes, that's true, but there are true gems out there. And in order to get to the gems, you should just go ahead and read the gems on your shelves so you can like get on with it. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to stop saying that I'm looking forward to these books because that would be redundant. Obviously I am. This is my top 10 books that I would like to really read this year for my shelf. So we'll just not say that part. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. I haven't read this book. I've heard nothing but amazing things. Brandon Sanderson said this was the best boring book he ever read. And he was like, I don't mean it in a mean way. He's just saying that it's one of those books. I think I talked about this in my last video. I'm going to put that one up first. It's the my top 3 books. He made it sound as if there was no plot here, and I'm hoping that's not the case because I still would like a plot. I mean, although The Magicians by Lev Grossman didn't have a plot at all in the first book, the subsequent books did have plots, and the first one just, even though it didn't have a plot, it was, I always call it Jonathan Franzen meets Narnia. So unless this is Jonathan Franzen meets magic or whatever, then I'm gonna need a plot in here. But it's Time Magazine #1 book of the year, Book Sense book of the year, shortlist. I mean, there's so many accolades, and they have a television show now. I just want to finally read it. I've had it on my shelf for, I don't know, 6-7 years or something like that. It's time. Washington Black by Essie Edugian. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name. Essie Edugian. Washington Black. I am so looking forward to this book. This is a finalist for the Man Booker Prize. Whenever it comes to, I don't like to say slave narratives, like enslaved narratives. I don't like to use the word slave because it's easy to forget that these are people who are not slaves. It's not an occupation. It's something that happened to them from someone else. So these are enslaved peoples, people who were enslaved by their enslavers. You can't take the other people out of the equation. So yeah, I'm not always a fan because it's just like, it's just emotionally really heavy, you know, and it's just really hard to take, and it makes me angry, and you know, just you know when you're just not in the mood to get out of the movie theater or finish reading a book being really ticked off. You're just not in the mood for that. You just don't have time for it at the moment, especially given the climate. It's just so frustrating. All that said, I kept hearing great things about it, and when I first heard it, I was like, okay, I want to check it out, but because of that feeling, I was like, I'm not. And finally, I just gave in and said, I'm going to pick this up. And the author is a Black author too, so I was like, even though it is a, you know, enslaved narrative, I'm sure that there's justice done to the situation, like The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, which I loved. So, and I wanted to support as well, so I made sure I purchased it. And basically what we have is a young boy who's born enslaved, and he's born into the system of slavery, but his master is killed or he dies, and he goes on this adventure. And he's like this genius. So he has these many wild adventures. It seems like the part of him in slavery is a very short part. And then what supposedly makes this book very special, from what I've heard, because I haven't wanted to know too much, is that he's like in a hot air balloon and he's diving. And it's really like this adventurous romp that's told from the perspective of this young enslaved boy. But it somehow is just done fantastically well. I mean, there's just something really special about the book is what I keep hearing. Extraordinary and exhilarating travelogue. As harrowing a portrayal of slavery as the Underground Railroad, but it also becomes a globe-trotting, page-turning adventure story. A historical epic with much to say about the present-day world. I'm just like, that's just an interesting mix. This is going to be at the top of my list. Dee Dee is having on a Goodreads, she's hosting a Read Soul Lit, I believe, and they're doing for February, for Black History Month. And I think this will be the book that I'll be reading if I don't get to it a little sooner. But, oh, I said that already, right? You already know. I'm really looking forward to reading this. The Diviners by Libba Bray. This comes up every year. I always say I want to read it. I never get to it. Part of it is because the size makes me feel like it's something that I must set aside time for or whatever, so I don't have as many interruptions, and it makes me continue to put it off. And this was one of the books that I really wanted to get to in 2016, and I didn't get a chance to get into it. I mean, I read a little and then I remember I had to stop. I stopped on page 70 and I just had to stop. I would really like to read a book though that takes place in the 20s that really gives credit where credit is due when it comes to the dancing and lindy hopping and all that slang. I really do, because I just never see it. Whenever I see movies, you would think that Black people never existed except to play the instruments in those bands and, you know, be like in a certain part of town where the, you know, the other characters go, and the white characters, and they're just like, oh, we're going to this club and we're cool and this is amazing. But I'm like, where do you think all that slang came from? And where do you think all those dance moves came from? Because it always comes from Black people, basically, from Black Americans, all the time. I would like to see a movie or a book put the credit where credit is due. That's like one of my frustrating things when it comes about 1920s depictions. My curmudgeon is coming out. My curmudgeon is coming out right now. And I don't even know if this does it or not. I'm sorry, this book is taking the blame, but it's just because it's 1920, so it reminds me of that fact. So, and there are many different characters here of different ethnicities, I believe. If you're into representation and knowing what the representation is in a book, I can't say I don't really care, but whenever people lead with a book and they go, this is great diverse representation, it always kind of like turns me off a little bit, because I almost feel like it's either a box to be ticked or people are just going overboard, if that makes any sense. Like they're just going overboard. And I feel like everything gets hitched on. It's another issue I have, is when, you know, every time something's going on with the Black community and there's like Black Lives Matter or whatever it is, everyone else wants to throw in their anxiety issues and this, and not to say those are not major things, because I've also dealt with stuff. You've seen my video dealing with OCD or whatever, but they just start throwing all the isms on Black people's back, and that kind of like chaps my hide, I have to say. It's like, we're focusing on this right now. We're not going to throw everything, because I feel like so much of the civil rights advancements in this country are on the backs of Black people and Black women in particular. And then anytime I see things happen on the internet, I just start seeing everyone throwing in all their things, all their isms and everything. I'm like, we're talking about this right now. All those things are important as well, but it just can't, every time the focus should be on Black lives or whatever, then we throw in all these extra things. There's a time for that as well, but we're not going to always hijack the conversation. And do you feel me? I want to know in the comments what you think about it. Is it just me who feels that way sometimes, that sees this? This all started because I said I really want to read The Diviners. Ouija boards, magic, lots of 20s flavor, lots of research. Apparently the author really researched a lot when it came to the series. And a diverse cast of characters. And I don't like always to say someone's a diverse person or this is a diverse book. It's like, what does that mean? It's just me, just white? It's like, again, you're starting from the status quo. Anyway, I'm gonna put this book down. Next, Yak Yassie's Homegoing. I wanted to read this one last year too. Again, an enslavement narrative. That's why I kind of like put it off. I heard it's so wonderful, but it's just, I just felt like your heart can only take so much, and I already explained why. But I want to get into it with this year. I want to get into this year. I heard nothing but phenomenal things, and I'm just ready for it. I was kind of saving this one too. I just felt like when I was going through a reading slump before, I just wished I had a book that I could almost count on, and so I think I was holding it for that. But I'm ready. I'm ready, and we kind of match right now, actually. Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. He is one of my favorite writers. I've really only read, I think, The Bone Clocks from him. Oh, no, I read The Bone Clocks and Slade House. Yeah, I just love his writing. I love the way he's able to get into the voice of all the characters. Oh, did I even tell you what the Homegoing was about? Well, I did say it was an enslavement narrative, but what I should say is it's about the family line. Like, so you had on one side of the family those who were captured and enslaved, and then we follow the side of the family that was left in Africa, or I can't even say left in Africa, that remained in Africa where they were from. And then you just see the family, the lineage, and you just follow, I guess, through each generation. I wonder how it's such a slim book that we were able to do that, but that's what it is. You can see what happened to that family. So Cloud Atlas, I didn't see the movie. I saw a little of it, and I didn't want to continue watching because I hadn't read the book. So all I know is that we're in multiple points of view. There's some reincarnation. It's kind of like love and relationships and how it, like, I think lasts throughout over time. So nothing but accolades. I hear that this book is way better than the movie. Actually, I think the movie was panned by a lot of people who loved the book, but who knows? I'm not sure. What I love about David Mitchell's writing is that he's just so spot on with his voice. Like, every time he's in a character, it sounds like that character. He does not sacrifice the character's voice for his authorial voice. And that can be a really tricky thing because sometimes your authorial voice wants to kind of come in there with something clever or whatever it is, even like syntax and everything, but he just remains true to that character. And I admire that. And I also think he has a great imagination. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Dower. All I know is that it's about it takes place during the Holocaust, and there are two people, one girl who's blind, I believe. And yes, she's blind, and then she's going to end up meeting a young boy from Germany, and you follow both of the characters, and then we see where their lives intersect. I meant to read this a long time ago and never got around to it. I think it was because it might have been so sad that I just wasn't sure I just had the stomach for it. This seems to be a running theme. It's not that I always avoid books like this, it's just that I have to be in the mood for it, you know? And I love serious fiction that's gonna really make me feel something, but there's just some topics that just, depending on what's going on, especially depending on what's going on in the news, I'm getting my Obama right now. I just cannot handle it. Now, I just don't want to, like, have that energy. I need something that's gonna get me out of it, not necessarily escapist, but not making me angry or despair. Yeah, I think it depends. We'll see how. I'm going to read Washington Black first. I'm definitely probably going to read Homegoing first, and then depending how I feel, we'll see if I'm going to add this to it. But I really feel like it's time. There's just so many great books, and I don't want to be so behind. Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch. This book is really heavy, considering that the other books were just as thick and some felt way heavier. I don't know if it's are the pages like heavyweight paper? Is it the book itself, like the cover? What is going on? This book is, are they really thin? Oh, these pages are really thin. These are like very thin pages. That's what it is. So it's really dense. Baby is talking, so that's what you're hearing right now. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I really want to read this. I did read The Secret History, which I wanted to read before I read this work, because I tend to want to read authors' books in the order that they were published. This book is about, I guess, a poor little rich boy, and he grows up with a very like strange relationship with his family. So he's rich, but then somehow he gets drawn into the criminal underworld when he grows up and, you know, grows into an adult. And a lot of things surround this picture, this painting of the Goldfinch. And that's all I know. Finally, we have Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. I really wanted to read this right when I picked it up. Like, I intended to buy it and read it that first week, and then I don't know what happened. And again, then I started saving it. This is about a Korean family who moves from Korea to Japan. And in Japan, when you're ethnically Korean, at the time, when was this time? When was this? Beginning in the early 1900s. So in the early 1900s, there was like a thing with when you're ethnically Korean and then you live in Japan, you become Japanese, you're still like a second-class citizen or worse. And there's definitely like a separation. Some people try to pass as Japanese. It's just like a very like harrowing experience. Being ethnically Korean and what it means for as far as like when some members are passing, when some members aren't, some members are really shunned, and what it means to this particular family. I don't know if they break up completely or what, but I'm really interested to find out if my heart can take it. So those are my top 10 books that I really want to read this year that come from my bookshelves. I own them and I intend to read them, or at least get 50% of those read this year in 2019. Don't forget to like it. If you liked it, please let me know in the comments below what books that you intend to read this year. And don't forget to share this video. Share this video with the world. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, subscribe. But it's always so hard for me to say that word. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.